Alright everybody, I'm back here and we are finishing up World War I. So today's video is going to kind of go along with this in class as we're finishing up World War I. Only got 15 minutes to record on this, so we're going to go ahead and jump into it. Now there's going to be places where I stop and you are going to be doing activities and you'll come back to the video, and that's completely fine. Alright, so the first thing we need to do, Woodrow Wilson, he's our president. He's very idealistic. And one of the things he's going to mention as soon as we get involved in World War I is he believes that we should end World War I with a peace without victory. He believes that if we have a victor in this war, that there is going to be leftover feelings of animosity, hurt feelings, that if Germany loses, Germany's going to let that fester and they're just going to stick with them, and they may come back trying to get something later. So he really believes that this needs to be a peace without victory. We don't need to go after Germany and punish them all that much. So we'll see how that comes out. Now, January 1918, he's going to put together his plan for what this peace should look like. Now, I want to point out one thing. This is in January of 1918. The war will not end until November of 1918. So this is before the battles have even ended. He's taking a look towards the peace. So he says that this peace needs to be built on 14 points, and here they are. A lot of these are going to kind of they're going to remind you of the causes of the war. So the first one, open diplomacy. Remember, one of the reasons why we got into World War I in the first place, or not us, but one of the reasons why World War I occurred is that everybody had all these secret alliances. So Wilson proposes that from now on we're going to have open diplomacy. Any alliances must be out there so everybody can see them. Again, also, number two, take a look at number two. Freedom of the seas must be respected. No longer are submarines going to be allowed to go out there and hunt neutral ships and sink them. Economic barriers are going to have to be removed. Tariffs and saying that you can't trade with them. Right, that is going to have to be removed for there to be any stable peace. And it makes sense. If you're trading with somebody, if you're buying stuff or selling stuff to somebody, are you going to go to war with them? No. Very rarely does a store owner sell something to somebody and then punch them in the face. All right, so you're not really going to go to war with somebody that you're doing business with. Another thing, that militarism, we're going to disarm. All right, so we're going to step back. We're going to go ahead and start breaking up a lot of these tanks, a lot of these weapons, just getting rid of them. Germany's colonial claims in Africa are going to go away. The southern ones are essentially going to go to Britain. The northern ones are essentially going to go to France. But Germany is no longer going to be a major colonial empire. Now, Russia, 6 has to deal with Russia. 6 through 13 have to deal with territorial issues. Russia's already left the war. Some of the territory, Wilson says, needs to be given back to them. All right, for this to really be a lasting peace. Germans got to get out of Belgium. We know their flag looks very similar. We know they have a lot of guys named Franz and Wilhelm. We know a lot of them speak German. They like chocolate too. They're not Germany, so they got to get out of there. Alsace-Lorraine is going to be given back to France. Alsace-Lorraine has been whining, or France has been whining about Alsace-Lorraine for 50 years since they lost it to Germany. They got to get it back. Most people there speak French anyway, so that's a good thing. Italy's going to be given a bit of Austria as kind of, here's what you get for changing sides to the winning side. Austria is going to still maintain its independence, but the empire is going to be broken up. The Balkans, where Serbia is at, they'll get their independence as well, but they're going to kind of cluster together in a country that's going to be called Yugoslavia. The Ottoman Empire is going to be broken up, and this is where we're going to do a terrible job of putting the pieces back together, but more on that later. Poland's going to be created, an independent nation again, so Poland's back. But the most important one, especially for us, is that he proposes a League of Nations, a league dedicated to preventing war. So they'll be able to step in when it looks like there's going to be an aggressor going out trying to take over territory, and they'll be able to stop it. This will be a place where countries can come together and talk about their problems in a diplomatic fashion and come up with some agreements, and we're trying to eliminate war. Again, idealistic, war to end all wars. So what I want you to do now, well, in a second, getting ahead of myself. The Central Powers are going to start to call it quits. The Ottoman Empire is going to fall first, then Austria-Hungary. Now in Germany, it's going to be interesting because they essentially have a revolution within their country, and it starts with the German Navy. They're told to go out into this apocalyptic battle where they know they're going to be blown to bits by the British Navy. So the German Navy actually mutinies. The sailors rise up and kind of tell their officers no. That's going to lead to a general uprising. It's going to end when this guy over here, Kaiser Wilhelm, is going to flee to Holland. He's going to leave Germany. He was the leader, and he is leaving. I always make the joke about, look at his mustache, looks like a bird, and he flies away to Holland. Yeah, I know it's a terrible joke, but still. And after he is pushed out, there's going to be a democratic government in Germany, and the first thing on their document is ending this disastrous war. So 2 days later, we're going to have armistice. At 11 a.m. on November 11th, 1918, the war will end. And it really is at 11 a.m. There's going to be an American soldier that's killed at 10:59. He's storming into this German trench, and they don't know that it's about to be an armistice, and they shoot him. But the war has ended. Germany is defeated. We've got to figure out what the terms of the peace treaty are going to be. So these guys are going to Versailles, which is a very nice palace in Paris, France, and they're going to get to decide what happens to Germany. We already know Wilson has his plan, but David Lloyd George and Clemenceau have their own plans of what Germany should do after the war. So what you're going to do now is you're going to get into your groups. Right? One person's going to be Wilson, one person's going to be Lloyd George, one person's going to be Clemenceau. And you're going to be fighting it out, hashing it out. You've got to get us a peace treaty that will end this war and hopefully prevent wars from here on out. Good luck. I'll be back in a little while. Alright, so we're back. You've done your treaty. Right, it's done. We'll kind of compare it to the Treaty of Versailles that actually will be produced by David Lloyd George and Clemenceau and Woodrow Wilson. The biggest thing of this is Wilson, even though he's idealistic, even though he has this plan, he comes in prepared. Clemenceau and Lloyd George have more skin in the game. They've been fighting this war for 4 years. Right? They're the ones that have sacrificed so many of their own people. The United States, even though we're going to lose 110,000 soldiers in this war, that's kind of a small, very, very small compared to France and Britain, who have lost millions of people. So they are out for blood. So the Treaty of Versailles is going to be more punishing towards Germany. Right? And the biggest thing is going to be these reparations, these 6.6 billion pounds. We can equate that to dollars that they're going to have to pay back. And they don't necessarily have that money on hand. So they're going to struggle with that. It's going to cause a severe economic depression in Germany. The other big things is they have to accept war guilt, even though they didn't start the war. Remember Serbia and all that stuff. Germany's late to the game. They have to accept responsibility for starting all the issues that went into the war. They're going to have to severely restrict their ability to wage war, so they're going to have to get rid of a lot of their army, a lot of their navy. This is a picture of some German troops having to smash up one of their heavy artillery pieces. And they're going to have to give some coal region, the Saar, to France temporarily so they can rebuild their economy, while Germany's got an economy that needs to be built as well. So Wilson's disappointed, but he still has hope because it has the League of Nations. Right, and that's going to be something that he's really hopeful about. And these are some of the territories that Germany is going to be giving up. They give some of their territory to Denmark. They're going to be giving up some territory to Poland, which has been created. Now, another thing that was different than the 14 points is that there's going to be 3 countries up here, 4 countries actually, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, and Finland, that are created out of that Russian territory that they had given Germany. So Russia's not getting that territory back. It's independent countries. Czechoslovakia is going to be in a tiny little bit, and this is the Alsace-Lorraine region, and that's the Saar region that was talked about in the simulation. So just wanted to show that map right quick. So after that, well, here's the thing with us. We have a two-step process. The president gets to negotiate foreign policy and treaties and gets to sign them, but they don't have the weight of law in the United States until they're ratified. So this Treaty of Versailles now has to go to Congress. And Congress isn't necessarily one to play fair with Wilson or want to play nicely with Wilson. Congress, especially the Senate, is Republican dominated. Wilson is a Democrat. So what I want to do is I want to get you into those groups, or maybe not groups, but I want you to take a look, and it's up to Miss Biggie whether she wants to put you in groups or not, but I want you to take a look at some documents where Wilson actually has to argue for the Treaty of Versailles, and you're also going to see another guy, Henry Cabot Lodge, who's going to be arguing against the Treaty of Versailles. And I want you to answer the question, would you have signed it? Would you have joined, or would you have signed the Treaty of Versailles? And the big thing it's going to be focused around is joining the League of Nations. All right, so why is the League of Nations controversial? And would you join it? All right, and now I'll be back in just a little bit. All right, so you're back. I trust you've read Wilson. He makes an impassioned plea for the League of Nations and how it's going to help promote democracy and help promote peace in the world. And you also read Henry Cabot Lodge, and he says that I have only one allegiance, and that's to the United States. I pledge allegiance to one flag. I cannot accept a mongrel banner of the League of Nations, and that the United States is the world's best hope. But if you fetter her or handcuff her, you destroy her good. Now, who do you think is actually going to win this meeting of the minds? It's actually going to be Cabot Lodge, or it's going to be Henry Cabot Lodge. He has a lot of support in the Senate. He's a senior member of the Senate, and they're going to listen to him. He makes a very impassioned speech. It's pretty convincing. So we will not join the League of Nations. And here goes a political cartoon that kind of shows what's happening. You have Uncle Sam. He's about to wed these foreign entanglements, harkening back to George Washington's farewell address, because of the League of Nations. They're getting married. So we're going to be married to the League of Nations. And the preacher saying, if anybody objects, speak now. And here comes the U.S. Senate, led by Henry Cabot Lodge, saying, oh, you bet we have some objections. And the main one is that you're taking our power away to protect ourselves. Right? Congress gets to declare war, but under the League of Nations, we wouldn't. We'd have to go to the League of Nations to ask for a declaration of war. So there's this idea of we're going to be so entangled that if the League of Nations wants to go to war against one of our allies, we've got to send troops to go beat up on our allies, and we don't necessarily have a say-so. So the Senate is going to push back. We don't sign the Treaty of Versailles. We don't enter the League of Nations. And because we don't do either of those, the League of Nations is going to be pretty weak without us. We're going to be one of the major powers after World War I. And so that's going to be an issue. We also have to sign our own peace treaty with Germany later. But this is essentially what the League of Nations is about without the United States. We built it. Remember, Wilson is the one who designed the League of Nations. So the President of the United States designed it. But we haven't joined it. And without us there, it's a pretty weak bridge, and it will probably fall apart. And it actually will, because we know that this is called the Great War at the time, but we know it is World War I, and it means that World War II is around the corner, and the League of Nations isn't going to be able to stop it. Alright, so that is the end of World War I, and I will